From peace signs to guitar flames, rock history's most electrifying moments have shaped music forever. Ready to dive into the performances that changed everything? Let's start with the festival that defined a generation. 1. What made Woodstock 1969 an unmissable musical revolution? The summer of '69 birthed a defining moment in music history when 400,000 souls descended upon Max Yasgur's dairy farm in Bethel, New York. Woodstock wasn't just a festival, it was a cultural earthquake that shook America to its core. Against a backdrop of Vietnam War protests and civil rights movements, the festival emerged as a beacon of peace and unity. The air crackled with possibility as Richie Havens opened the festival with an improvised freedom that would become legendary. Through torrential rains and technical delays, the music never stopped. Santana's soul-stirring percussion, The Who's dawn-breaking performance, and Jimi Hendrix's revolutionary take on the Star-Spangled Banner transformed simple farm fields into holy ground. The festival transcended its musical roots to become a symbol of counterculture triumph. Despite mud-soaked grounds and food shortages, strangers shared what little they had. The expected chaos never came. Instead, a spirit of harmony prevailed that would echo through decades. 3 days of peace and music grew into something mythical. Woodstock proved that music could unite a divided nation and inspire social change. The festival's impact still reverberates today, setting the stage for another iconic moment. Queen's earth-shattering Live Aid performance. 2. Can you feel the energy of Queen's Live Aid performance with Freddie Mercury? July 13, 1985 became etched in rock history when Queen delivered 20 minutes of pure magic at Live Aid. Freddie Mercury commanded Wembley Stadium like a musical warrior, leading his army into battle. His yellow jacket and studded armband became symbols of rock royalty that day. The band kicked off with Bohemian Rhapsody as 72,000 fans erupted in unified chorus. Mercury's piano notes rang through the summer air while Brian May's guitar solos pierced the heavens. The energy surged as they transitioned into Radio Gaga, with the crowd's synchronized hand claps echoing like thunder. Mercury's voice soared across continents through satellite feeds reaching 1.9 billion viewers. His call and response with the audience during We Will Rock You transformed the stadium into one beating heart. The raw power of We Are the Champions became an anthem of human triumph. This wasn't just a concert, it was a masterclass in showmanship that raised £150 million for famine relief. Even other legendary performers watched in awe as Queen owned those precious minutes. The performance set a new standard for live shows that remains unmatched. As we explore the Beatles' final rooftop concert next, we'll see how another iconic band chose to bid farewell in a completely different, yet equally memorable way. 3. How did the Beatles change forever with their rooftop farewell? The wind whipped across London's Savile Row as the Beatles mounted their final stand. On January 30th, 1969, the Fab Four ascended 5 stories to deliver what would become their legendary last live performance. The rooftop concert wasn't just a show, it was the end of an era. Paul McCartney's bass cut through the winter air while John Lennon's voice echoed off surrounding buildings. George Harrison's guitar work soared above the streets as Ringo's drums kept the heartbeat of rock history pulsing. The impromptu concert turned ordinary lunch breaks into unforgettable memories for lucky passersby. The 42-minute performance captured the band's raw essence one final time. They played Get Back with the same fire that once ignited Beatlemania. The Police eventually shut down the concert, but not before the Beatles gave the world one last glimpse of their magic. Like a brilliant sunset marking day's end, this rooftop farewell painted the sky with both beauty and melancholy. The concert became a perfect metaphor for the band's journey, rising above the ordinary to create something extraordinary before fading into legend. As the wind carries us forward to our next iconic moment, we'll witness another kind of fire altogether, when Jimi Hendrix turned his guitar into a blazing sacrifice to rock and roll. 4. What happened when Jimi Hendrix's guitar went up in flames? The summer heat at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967 couldn't match the inferno Jimi Hendrix was about to unleash. After a mind-bending performance of Wild Thing, Hendrix knelt beside his Fender Stratocaster like a high priest before an altar. The crowd held their breath as he doused his beloved instrument with lighter fluid. In a moment that would forever change rock history, Hendrix set his guitar ablaze. The flames danced against the California night sky while he coaxed otherworldly sounds from the burning instrument. The audience stood transfixed as this sonic shaman transformed destruction into art. The guitar screamed its final notes through a wall of fire. This wasn't just showmanship, it was a declaration of war on musical conventions. Hendrix sacrificed his guitar like an ancient offering to the gods of rock and roll. The burning Stratocaster became a symbol of the revolutionary spirit of the 1960s. Every lick of flame represented the old guard burning away. The aftermath left more than just charred wood and melted strings. It carved an indelible image into rock's consciousness that countless artists would try to replicate. Yet none could capture the raw power and spontaneous rebellion of that legendary moment when Hendrix turned his guitar into a fiery phoenix. Speaking of revolutionary performances, Johnny Cash was about to bring his own kind of fire to Folsom Prison. 5. Can you imagine the raw power of Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison? The walls of Folsom Prison trembled on January 13, 1968, as Johnny Cash stepped onto the makeshift stage. Like a caged lion finding his voice, the man in black faced 2,000 inmates who saw in him a reflection of their own struggles and redemption. Cash's deep baritone cut through the prison air with Folsom Prison Blues, the inmates erupting in cheers at the iconic line, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." Their reaction wasn't just appreciation, it was recognition. These weren't just songs, they were stories of their lives. Between songs, Cash's fingers trembled from withdrawal, his demons dancing beneath the surface. Yet this raw vulnerability only strengthened his connection with the audience. He transformed the prison cafeteria into a sanctuary of shared pain and hope, his voice carrying the weight of every prisoner's story. The performance birthed one of music's most powerful live albums, capturing the electricity of desperate men finding momentary freedom through music. Cash didn't just perform, he became their voice, their champion, their brother in darkness seeking light. Like a modern-day Robin Hood in black, Cash turned the prison's confines into a stage for redemption, proving music could break through any barrier, even prison walls. Speaking of breaking barriers, the Rolling Stones would soon push boundaries at Altamont, but with devastating consequences. 6. What made the Rolling Stones' Altamont Free Concert so controversial? The Altamont Free Concert of 1969 stands as rock's darkest day, a chilling counterpoint to Woodstock's peace and love. The Rolling Stones hired Hell's Angels as security for $500 worth of beer, a decision that would haunt the music world forever. The air crackled with tension as 300,000 people packed the Altamont Speedway. Fights broke out like wildfire, while Marty Balin of Jefferson Airplane got knocked unconscious on stage. The crowd swayed dangerously, a human tide ready to break. During the Stones' Under My Thumb, 18-year-old Meredith Hunter pulled a gun near the stage. The Hells Angels responded with brutal force, stabbing him repeatedly. The cameras caught it all for the documentary Gimme Shelter, forever capturing rock's loss of innocence. Mick Jagger, powerless to control the chaos, watched his free concert dream transform into a nightmare. The violence continued as the Stones played Sympathy for the Devil, the song's dark energy matching the apocalyptic scene below. The Altamont concert marked the death of the 1960s idealism. What started as a celebration of free music ended as a cautionary tale about crowd control, security, and the limits of rock's peaceful revolution. As darkness fell on that California day, rock music would never be quite the same. Speaking of transformative performances, Led Zeppelin's Madison Square Garden show would soon redefine what a rock concert could be. 7. How did Led Zeppelin's Madison Square Garden show define a generation? The thunder of John Bonham's drums shook Madison Square Garden on July 29, 1973, as Led Zeppelin delivered what many consider their most electrifying performance. The band stormed through a marathon 3-hour set that would become the cornerstone of their concert film, The Song Remains the Same. Robert Plant's Banshee wails echoed through the packed arena as Jimmy Page wielded his Gibson Les Paul like a weapon of mass seduction. The mystical opening notes of Stairway to Heaven sent shivers through 20,000 spellbound fans who knew they were witnessing history in the making. The show marked the peak of Zeppelin's powers, with the band firing on all cylinders. John Paul Jones's thunderous bass lines intertwined with Bonham's tribal rhythms created a sonic foundation that could move mountains. The raw energy of rock and roll nearly blew the roof off the Garden, while Dazed and Confused stretched into a 45-minute psychedelic journey. This wasn't just a concert, it was a religious experience that defined what rock and roll could be. The show became the blueprint for every arena rock performance that followed, setting an impossibly high bar for generations of musicians. Like a cosmic alignment that happens once in a lifetime, this performance captured lightning in a bottle. Speaking of magical moments in rock history, Kurt Cobain would later create his own legendary performance with Nirvana's MTV Unplugged. 8. What was the magic behind Nirvana's MTV Unplugged with Kurt Cobain? In November 1993, Nirvana created Pure Magic in New York's Sony Music Studios. The band stripped away their signature grunge distortion to reveal something hauntingly beautiful. Like a butterfly emerging from its punk rock chrysalis, Kurt Cobain's raw emotions took flight in ways fans had never witnessed before. The stage looked like a funeral parlor with black candles and stargazer lilies. This eerie setup would later feel like a devastating premonition of Cobain's fate just months later. The band chose to ignore their biggest hits and instead crafted an intimate setlist featuring covers from the Vaselines, David Bowie, and Lead Belly. Cobain's voice cracked with pain during Where Did You Sleep Last Night? The moment he opened his eyes at the song's climax became one of music's most spine-chilling scenes. His performance of All Apologies felt like a whispered goodbye to the world. The show broke every MTV Unplugged convention. No acoustic version of Smells Like Teen Spirit, no rehearsed banter, just pure, unfiltered authenticity. The Meat Puppets joined them on stage, introducing their music to a new generation of fans. This wasn't just a concert, it was Nirvana's swan song, a testament to their artistry beyond the grunge movement. As we turn the page, we'll explore how David Bowie bid farewell to his most famous alter ego. 9. Can you relive David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust farewell concert? On July 3, 1973, the Hammersmith Odeon in London became the stage for one of rock's most dramatic farewells. David Bowie, adorned in his iconic Ziggy Stardust persona, stepped into the spotlight one final time. Like a supernova burning brightest before extinction, this performance would mark the end of an era that revolutionized rock music forever. The air crackled with electric anticipation as Bowie, dressed in a dazzling blue jumpsuit, commanded the stage with otherworldly presence. His flame-red hair and ethereal makeup transformed him into the alien rock star who had captured imaginations worldwide. The Spiders from Mars, his backing band, delivered pitch-perfect renditions of classics like Starman and Space Oddity. Then came the moment that shocked the world. Between songs, Bowie calmly announced, "This is the last show we'll ever do." The audience fell silent, unaware they were witnessing history. Even his bandmates stood stunned, having no prior warning of this declaration. The performance reached its crescendo with Rock and Roll Suicide, where Bowie seemed to pour every ounce of Ziggy's remaining life force into one final, explosive performance. As the last notes faded, so did rock's most captivating character, leaving an indelible mark on music history. Speaking of transformative performances, Pink Floyd would soon redefine what a rock show could be with their groundbreaking Wall concerts. 10. How did Pink Floyd's The Wall Live transform stage shows forever? In 1980, Pink Floyd unleashed a spectacle that would redefine live performances forever. The Wall concerts weren't just shows, they were theatrical masterpieces that brought Roger Waters' dark vision to life in ways that left audiences spellbound. The centerpiece was a massive wall, built brick by brick during the first half of the show. Each stark white brick symbolized the isolation between band and audience, creating a physical manifestation of the album's themes. As the musicians performed, larger-than-life inflatable characters emerged: the menacing teacher, the domineering mother, and the haunting wife. Gerald Scarfe's nightmarish animations projected onto the wall turned the concert into a multimedia experience. The wall itself became a canvas for disturbing imagery that perfectly captured the album's psychological warfare. Waters' creation broke new ground by integrating storytelling, music, and visual effects in ways never before attempted. The show's climax came with the wall's dramatic collapse, sending foam bricks cascading into the crowd. This moment of catharsis represented breaking down personal barriers, a theme that resonated deeply with audiences. The Wall Live set new standards for production value and proved that rock concerts could be immersive, theatrical experiences. As Guns N' Roses would later demonstrate at the Ritz, sometimes raw energy alone can create legendary moments. But first, let's explore how Axl Rose and company made history that night. 11. What made Guns N' Roses' Ritz 1988 performance legendary? The Ritz in New York City became hallowed ground on February 2nd, 1988. Guns N' Roses unleashed a raw performance that would cement their status as rock's most dangerous band. Like a caged beast finally set free, Axl Rose prowled the stage with predatory intensity. The band ripped through their setlist with the force of a hurricane. Fresh off their breakthrough album Appetite for Destruction, they played with something to prove. Slash's guitar wailed through Paradise City with laser precision while Duff McKagan's bass thundered beneath. The intimate venue created an electric atmosphere that crackled with tension. Axl's signature screams during Welcome to the Jungle sent shockwaves through the crowd. His serpentine movements hypnotized fans who pressed against the stage barrier. This wasn't just another rock show, it was a defining moment that captured GNR at their hungriest. The sweat-soaked performance showcased their perfect balance of technical skill and street-tough attitude. Every song felt like a stick of dynamite ready to explode. MTV filmed the entire show, preserving this legendary night for future generations. The footage reveals 5 musicians operating at their absolute peak. It stands as testament to why Guns N' Roses revolutionized rock music in the late 1980s. The Who's explosive performance at Leeds University would soon show another band at their absolute prime. 12. Can you experience the intensity of The Who's concert at Leeds? The Who's legendary performance at Leeds University in 1971 stands as a testament to raw rock power unleashed. Like a sonic thunderstorm, Pete Townshend's windmill guitar strikes and Keith Moon's explosive drumming created an unforgettable wall of sound that shook the very foundation of the modest university hall. The band captured this electrifying show for their album Live at Leeds, widely regarded as the greatest live rock recording ever made. Roger Daltrey's primal scream in Won't Get Fooled Again pierced through the smoke-filled air while John Entwistle's thunderous bass lines rumbled like an approaching freight train. The Who performed their masterpiece Tommy in its entirety, transforming the simple stage into a theater of rock opera. The intimate venue amplified every note, every crash, and every power chord into a visceral experience that left the audience gasping for breath. Townshend's signature guitar-smashing finale wasn't just showmanship, it was the physical manifestation of rock's untamed spirit. This concert became the blueprint for future live performances, proving that rock music could be both technically brilliant and primitively powerful. The sweat-drenched crowd witnessed not just a concert, but a defining moment in rock history that would echo through generations. As the dust settled in Leeds, another seismic event was brewing in Moscow, where Metallica would soon make history. 13. What was so explosive about Metallica's Moscow 1991 concert? In the twilight of the Soviet Union, Metallica unleashed a sonic revolution that would shake the very foundations of Moscow. The Monsters of Rock festival drew an astronomical crowd of 1.6 million people, making it one of the largest rock concerts in history. Like a powder keg waiting to ignite, the atmosphere crackled with raw energy. The political landscape was as volatile as the music itself. Just months before the Soviet Union's collapse, young Russians tasted Western metal for the first time. The sea of fans stretched beyond sight, creating waves of humanity that moved like a living organism to the thunderous beats of Enter Sandman and For Whom the Bell Tolls. Security forces watched nervously as James Hetfield's powerful vocals echoed across Toshino Airfield. The band's performance became a symbol of freedom, breaking through decades of cultural isolation. Lars Ulrich's drums hit like artillery fire, while Kirk Hammett's guitar solos sliced through the heavy Moscow air. The concert wasn't just a show, it was a cultural earthquake that marked the end of an era. Fans broke through barriers, scaled light towers, and created a mosh pit visible from helicopter footage. Blood, sweat, and tears mixed with pure joy as metal met Moscow in an unforgettable collision. Up next, witness how U2 transformed Red Rocks into a spiritual experience that would define their legacy. 14. How did U2's Live at Red Rocks become an iconic moment in rock? On a rain-soaked evening in June 1983, U2 created pure magic at Colorado's Red Rocks Amphitheater. The heavens unleashed their fury as Bono and his bandmates took the stage. Nature's dramatic backdrop perfectly matched the raw intensity of their performance. The towering red sandstone formations loomed like ancient guardians through the mist. Fog machines merged with natural elements to create an otherworldly atmosphere. White flags pierced through the darkness as Sunday Bloody Sunday echoed across the rocks. Bono's passionate performance transcended mere entertainment. His voice soared through the rain while the Edge's guitar work cut through the storm like lightning. Larry Mullen Jr. S drums rumbled like thunder across the natural amphitheater. The concert film Live at Red Rocks Under a Blood-Red Sky captured this legendary moment. It transformed U2 from rising stars into global icons. The image of Bono holding a white flag against the fiery backdrop became forever etched in rock history. This wasn't just another concert, it was a perfect storm of elements coming together. The weather, the venue, and the band's raw energy created something truly supernatural that night. Like a religious experience, it converted countless viewers into lifelong believers. As the rain poured down in Colorado, another legendary artist was about to shake up the folk world in Newport. 15. Can you understand the cultural impact of Bob Dylan's Newport Folk Festival? The summer of 1965 witnessed a seismic shift in music history when Bob Dylan plugged in his Fender Stratocaster at Newport Folk Festival. Like a bolt of lightning striking the heart of folk music tradition, Dylan's electric performance sent shockwaves through the crowd of purists who viewed him as their acoustic messiah. The moment Dylan struck those first amplified chords of Maggie's Farm, the audience erupted in a mix of cheers and boos. Folk music veterans Pete Seeger and Alan Lomax were reportedly so outraged they threatened to cut the sound cables with an axe. The three-song set became a battlefield between artistic evolution and traditional expectations. This wasn't just about going electric, it was Dylan declaring independence from the folk movement that had crowned him their king. His backing band, featuring members of the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, helped deliver a raw, rebellious sound that would influence countless artists for generations to come. The performance lasted merely 15 minutes, but its impact echoed through decades. Dylan's betrayal of folk music became a symbol of artistic freedom, and the power of breaking conventions. The Newport incident transformed him from folk hero to rock revolutionary, paving the way for countless artists to follow their creative instincts without fear. Looking ahead, the boss himself would draw inspiration from Dylan's courage as we explore Springsteen's legendary Hammersmith Odeon show. 16. What made Bruce Springsteen's Hammersmith Odeon concert unforgettable? On November 18, 1975, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band stormed London's Hammersmith Odeon. The air crackled with electricity as the boss faced his first major international test. Springsteen paced backstage like a caged lion before unleashing his raw American spirit on British soil. The show marked a turning point in rock history. The band ripped through a blistering 3-hour set that left jaws on the floor. Springsteen's signature anthem, Born to Run, exploded with newfound intensity. The crowd stood transfixed as he poured his heart into Thunder Road with such conviction that even the skeptical British press fell under his spell. The concert showcased everything that made Springsteen legendary. His theatrical stage presence commanded attention, while his storytelling transported listeners to the Jersey Shore. The E Street Band's tight musicianship provided the perfect foundation for his gritty vocals and passionate delivery. Most notably, this performance silenced critics who had dismissed him as overhyped. By the final notes of Rosalita, Springsteen had converted an entire nation. The Hammersmith show proved he wasn't just America's heartland hero, he was a global force of nature who could unite audiences through the power of rock and roll. Ready to dive deeper into legendary rock moments? Hit subscribe and join us next week. We're bringing you exclusive footage and untold stories from music's greatest rebels and revolutionaries. Rock on!